Part 20. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 193. Seeing the fat cat coming back, Licking Soul was suddenly a little happy. She stretched out her hand and touched the fat cat's fur. Even though she had no entity, her palm would pass through the fat cat if she touched it, but she didn't care. Not far away, Changsun Zhengzin was sweeping the yard with a broom. His eyes were cold. Only when he occasionally raised his eyes and fell on Licking would he show a trace of tenderness. At the same time, after Chen Ronghuo walked into the secret room, he sat cross-legged and began to practice. His way of practicing this time was to refine the large amount of faith power he obtained this time and transform it into his own soul power. He was a natural disaster magic flame warlock. The natural disaster magic flame would increase with the growth of his soul power. So as long as his soul power reaches the third level, the natural disaster magic flame in his soul sea will transform into the third level. At that time, he will be a veritable third level practitioner. As for his demon magician level, he has to wait for one of his pets to advance. However, after his soul power reaches the third level, the cultivation speed of all his pets will be accelerated, and it will definitely not take long for them to advance. Of course, among them, the fat cat, who is already in the late second level, has the fastest breakthrough speed. Thinking of this, Chen Ronghuo activated the Dark Star meditation technique to speed up the refining of the power of faith. The power of faith needs to be refined before it can be transformed into various energies. Chen Ronghuo's Dark Star meditation technique has a bonus for refining the power of faith, and the refining speed is extremely fast. However, this extremely fast speed is also relative. At the beginning, Zhou Yuan who sneaked and killed Tai Fei's Hang, the lord of the Iron Blood Town, and plundered his accumulated power of faith for many years. After performing the secret method, he almost broke through to the third level on the spot. In comparison, Chen Ronghuo's way of refining the power of faith is really a small witch compared to a big witch. In fact, Chen Ronghuo has an ancient book in his hand and can also use such a secret technique, but he did not do so. Because similar secret techniques, after using them, have great sequelae, which will lead to unstable foundations, and it will take a lot of time to make up for it in the future. For him, the gains are not worth the losses. Moreover, this kind of secret technique will also waste a lot of faith power. Shortly after Chen Ronghuo began to retreat, Ho San also took his men and returned to Greenwater Bay Town by boat. Ho San. Seeing Ho San return, Zhu Deipen and Li Haishui immediately came up, and Zhu Deipen asked in a low voice, "Didn't you go out with the Lord? Why did the Lord come back first, and not from the sea?" This time, Chen Ronghuo went out to sea without them, which made them depressed. As Chen Ronghuo's guards, they didn't even have the qualifications to follow Chen Ronghuo, and both of them felt a little ashamed to see people. However, both of them are optimists. Although they know to practice hard, most of the negative emotions only stay in their hearts for a while and then disappear. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Hearing Zhu Deipen's question, Ho San kept his mouth shut and didn't say a word. Zhu Deipen was furious when he heard this. He just thought that this matter was related to Chen Ronghuo, and he really shouldn't ask about it, so he didn't continue to worry about it. At this time, Ho San suddenly said, "By the way, I just heard a big battle on the land in the sea. Do you know what happened? Don't ask if you shouldn't ask." Zhu Deipen waved his hand and turned away. "The Lord went into seclusion after returning and didn't tell me anything. You ask me, who should I ask?" Seeing Zhu Deipen leave, Ho San was speechless. But then, he had an idea. Thinking that Zhu Deipen didn't say anything, this matter couldn't be related to Chen Ronghuo, right? Ho San suddenly, Li Haishui noticed a fat boy in his teens coming down from the big ship, and asked in surprise, "Who is this kid? Where did you kidnap him from?" "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask." Ho San waved his hand, turned around and walked to Udupang, picked him up and said, "Come on, uncle will find you a place to live." Li Haishui was depressed at the spot. Who did I offend? Time passed day by day. Chi Mu, who was in the important town of King Mu, went to the important town of Yuanhe. Seeing that he couldn't find anything, Long Fifeng also went to the important town of Yuanhe. Then he got the same news as Chi Mu. With this news, it quickly spread throughout the Beiwu Island. When they learned that another lord of an important town in Beiwu Island had died, and fell into the hands of 3 demons, everyone became secretly alert. From that day on, few lords of the territory would leave their territory. At the same time, the chaos caused by the death of Earl Beiwu seemed to have been curbed on the entire island. However, such days came to an end in less than 2 days. The remaining 9 major towns on the island, as well as the towns where Chang Sun Zhengzin's 3 sons were located, began to speed up the pace of annexation. This time, as if it had been agreed in advance, there was no conflict between the major towns. But the ordinary towns on the island were all annexed. There were few third-level cultivators in ordinary towns. Facing the annexation of major towns, they had almost no resistance. In just a few days, there were only a few ordinary towns left on the island. However, among them, there were 3 major towns that did not take much action. These 3 major towns are the 3 major towns near Lushwiven Town, Yuanhe Town, Longtan Town, and Mentang Town. It goes without saying that Wen Jingluo, the master of Yuanhe Town, has been subdued by Chen Ronghuo in secret. The reason why Longtan Town did not take action was because in the past few days, there were often third-level practitioners making huge noises in Longtan Town. They searched for it several times, but they could not find the source, so they naturally did not dare to act rashly. But they did not know that all the noises were made by Huanglin in secret. Huanglin was also working on breaking through the 3rd level. But he was different from Chen Ronghuo. He almost did not need to go into seclusion when practicing. And although he was a 2nd-level practitioner, because he was the inheritor of the Mongadu Black Emperor Snake, it was not difficult for him to make noises comparable to those of a 3rd-level practitioner. As for Mentang Town, it was said that a 3rd-level big snake suddenly appeared in the mountain near Ongsha Town. The big snake was making trouble in the mountain, often driving away some low-level demons and attacking Mentang Town. This made Mentang Town very annoyed, so it did not join the ranks of annexing weak towns. Among all the towns, the one that benefited the most was Xuanhuan Town. In addition to annexing all the weak towns near it, Xuanhuan Town also annexed almost all of the territory of the original Quangdao Town. As for Yuanhe Town, which was adjacent to the border of Xuanhuan Town and also had a large area bordering Quangdao Town, it only received a small area belonging to Quangdao Town. But even so, Yuanhe Town and Quangdao Town almost had a conflict. In such days, time passed day by day. More than a month passed in a flash. On this day, in Chen Ronghuo's retreat room, Chen Ronghuo, who had been retreating for more than a month, suddenly opened his eyes and showed a hint of joy. Tonight, I will cultivate immortality and endure another chapter. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 194. After more than a month of practice, Chen Ronghuo's soul power finally reached the 3rd level. After his soul power reached the 3rd level, the natural disaster flame in his soul sea also transformed, releasing a more bizarre aura, and also reached the 3rd level. In other words, he is now a 3rd level cultivator. And it has only been about a year and a half since he came to this world. Although for any cultivator, the more you practice, the harder it is, but in a year and a half, he has become a 3rd level cultivator, which still makes him full of confidence in the future. Even so far, before the 2 worlds are officially connected, he still has 298.5 years to improve himself. However, as soon as he showed joy in his eyes, he felt his consciousness paused, and then appeared in the inner space of the ancient book. He subconsciously raised his head and looked up. When he saw that there was nothing above, he was stunned and immediately looked at the 9 pillars around the inner space of the ancient book. These 9 pillars represent the 9 sealed pages of the ancient book. There are 2 pillars that have been unsealed as his cultivation level has improved. Of these 2 pillars, one is empty, and the other is sealed with a powerful sword energy from Naikwangdao that is comparable to that of a mid-level 3rd-level cultivator. The remaining 7 pillars are all in chaos, and it is impossible to see what is inside. Buzz. When Chen Ronghuo looked at the remaining 7 pillars, he immediately saw that one of the pillars was shaking slightly, as if something wanted to escape from it. What will it be this time? Chen Ronghuo's eyes showed anticipation. He opened the sealed page of the ancient book twice. The first time he got the left-hand ability, needless to say, the second time he got the Dustless Heart. Although he couldn't use it himself, it was of great use to him. So he also had great expectations for the unsealing of the 3rd page of the sealed book. This time the waiting time was a little longer. After about 10 minutes, the chaotic color covering the shaking pillar finally dissipated, revealing the things inside. This is. When Chen Ronghuo saw what was revealed in the ancient book, he suddenly showed a trace of surprise. This time, what was revealed was actually 3 drops of bright red blood, 1 large and 2 small. Just when Chen Ronghuo's eyes showed a look of surprise, a message suddenly grew from nothingness and passed to his mind. Undead demon blood, the blood of the undead demon lord sealed by the Book of Seal. If the undead demon blood is integrated into the body and refined, the vitality will become extremely strong, and most injuries can be quickly recovered. With the improvement of cultivation, it can be regenerated by broken limbs and blood drops. At the same time, the martial arts qualifications will also be improved to the current limit. In addition, the undead demon blood has huge energy. If the 7th level cultivators are integrated, the martial arts cultivation will be quickly improved. The undead demon blood is composed of 3 parts, 1 is the main part and 2 are the secondary parts. The 3 have a special relationship, among which the undead demon blood, primary, has a stronger effect. After refining, it will be able to transfer part of the injuries suffered by itself to the cultivator of the undead demon blood, secondary. Note, to integrate the undead demon blood, you must first integrate the primary undead demon blood and undergo the baptism of pain. When this message appeared in Chen Ronghuo's mind, Chen Ronghuo was stunned. Unlike the last time when the Dustless Heart was of no use to him, the undead demon blood obtained this time can obviously greatly improve his self-protection ability. As for who the 2 drops of the secondary undead demon blood will be given to, this is also a matter that does not need to be considered. If cultivators below the 7th level integrate, their martial arts cultivation will be rapidly improved. I wonder how fast this rapid improvement can be. Chen Ronghuo showed a hint of expectation in his eyes. At this time, he is still in the late stage of the martial arts realm, and has not even reached the peak of the 1st level. This is related to his low aptitude in martial arts. But it was also related to his fear of death, and he initially thought that warriors had to fight in close combat. However, before in the Kwangdao town, after he saw Naikwangdao slashing with a knife, the knife energy was continuous and murderous. This idea had changed. He had the ancient book, and the speed of obtaining resources was much faster than others. Maybe he could really practice both ways together and achieve something. Even if it didn't work, he could make his self-protection ability much stronger. Thinking of this, he withdrew his consciousness from the ancient book. Then he took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and controlled the immortal magic blood in the ancient book to merge into his body. Pain. Suddenly, after a hint of coolness came from his body, Chen Ronghuo suddenly felt this hint of coolness, which turned into heat in an instant, as if his body was on fire, and wanted to burn him to death. But this was just a feeling, not real fire. If it was real fire, he might be able to control it, but he had no control over this feeling. So he could only show extreme pain, hug his body, and lie on the ground. The intense pain spread throughout Chen Ronghuo's body, and even his soul was in pain. The transformation of the immortal demon blood not only transforms the body, but also the soul. In pain, Chen Ronghuo's expression was distorted. Whether on earth or in this world, this was the first time he suffered this kind of pain. Roar, roar, roar. In the secret room, he opened his mouth and roared. He wanted to vent his pain by roaring, but the boundless pain made his voice become weaker and weaker until he lost consciousness and fell unconscious. After Chen Ronghuo fell unconscious, a lot of blood gradually overflowed from his body. The blood seeped through his clothes and left a pool of sticky blood on the ground. The whole secret room was filled with a strong smell of blood. But in this process, the aura emanating from Chen Ronghuo's body became stronger and stronger, as if his body had been reborn. A few hours later, Chen Ronghuo woke up from his coma, and he supported himself with his hands and sat up from the ground. I am. Chen Ronghuo was a little confused. However, this confusion, after he saw his hands full of blood and felt the great power contained in his body, he immediately understood what had just happened. With a thought in his mind, he immediately used the identification technique of the ancient book to identify his attributes. Chen Ronghuo, Level 3 Early Calamity Magic Flame Warlock, Pseudo Level 3 Demon Warlock, Level 3 Early Warrior. Warlock Qualification, 5. Warrior Qualification, 5. Level 3 Warrior. Am I a Level 3 Warrior? From Level 1 Warrior to Level 2 Warrior, shouldn't I comprehend that the blood is as thick as the earth? From Level 2 to Level 3, shouldn't I comprehend that the blood is as light as air? Chen Ronghuo was dumbfounded. He never expected that he would break through two major levels at once. So, what about the rest? Can I use the remaining 2 drops of undead demon blood to create 2 more Level 3 practitioners? Thanks to 5 book friends, Wu Liao, Xian Yuming, Tiger Woolala, Love is Just a Beautiful Legend, and 572406412, for their 100 coin reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 195. The blood is thick. In the secret room, Chen Ronghuo muttered to himself, stamped his foot on the ground, and suddenly there was a loud bang in the secret room, like a thunder. Fortunately, the secret room had been blessed with so much solidity that it only trembled slightly. Otherwise, his footstep might cause the secret room to collapse, making a big joke and burying himself alive in it. The blood is light. Following his mind, he stepped forward and stood in the air like a fairy. After reaching the 3rd level, Chen Ronghuo could fly in the air with the 3rd level soul power alone. But he did not use the soul power now. The blood was invisible and colorless, and it spread out from his feet, making him step in the air as if walking on flat ground. Chen Ronghuo's face showed joy, knowing that the pain he had just suffered was not in vain. He didn't have much understanding of the martial arts, but now, the heavy blood required to become a warrior of the earth and the light blood required to become a warrior of the sky have become his instincts because of the transformation of the immortal demon blood. This is like some powerful blood creatures in the world of gods, who have a 3rd level or even higher cultivation level when they are born. Thinking of this, his body shook, shaking off the blood scabs on his body, then changed his clothes in the secret room and cleaned up the secret room. Lord! Chen Ronghuo came out of retreat and walked out of the door. The guards guarding outside him immediately stepped forward and handed him a notebook. The notes recorded the major events that happened during his retreat that Xiaoruo sorted out. The notes were clear and organized. Chen Ronghuo took the notes and read them one by one. Gao Yan broke through to the 2nd level. After a moment, Chen Ronghuo's eyes lit up slightly. Gao Yan was the weapon refiner recommended by Zhu Kaiyan more than a month ago and appointed by him as the head of the weapon refinery hall. Chen Ronghuo thought about it. More than a month ago, he raised Gao Yan's fire magician qualification from 2 points to 3 points, and also gave Gao Yan a soul-raising pill. It was natural for Gao Yan to break through now. Go and call Gao Yan, Zhu Daipen, and Li Haishui for me. Flipping through the notebook, Chen Ronghuo waved to the guard beside him. Yes. The guard took the order and walked down immediately. A third-level cultivator is already a high-end combat force on Beiwu Island. An ordinary third-level cultivator can become the master of a major town, but if I want to become the new Earl of Beiwu and unify Beiwu Island, I am still not capable of it with my current strength. Knowing yourself and the enemy, you can fight 100 battles without danger. Chen Ronghuo calculated through the ancient book and knew that Huang Lin had also broken through to the third level. Counting Huang Lin, and the third-level snake in Huang Lin's hand that he arranged to cause trouble in the important town of Mentang, plus himself, the magic puppet in his hand, and Zhen Qinzan, he now has 5 third-level combat forces. However, although he has a lot of third-level combat forces, if Changsun Zhengzin is not counted, there is no top combat force above the third-level late stage. Through calculation, he already knows that, excluding Changsun Zhengzin, there are 2 third-level peak practitioners and 6 third-level late-stage practitioners on the entire Beiwu Island. These 8 people are the top combat forces on the island. However, as to why Gao Sen, the first person on Beiwu Island 300 years ago, was able to become a 5th-level practitioner, but now, except for Changsun Zhengzin before, there is not even a 4th-level practitioner on the island, he doesn't know. As for calculating through ancient books, as soon as he saw the energy required to calculate this matter, he stopped thinking about it. Lord. Chen Ronghuo waited in the hall of the Lord's mansion for a short time, and Gao Yan, Zhu Daipen, and Li Haishui all hurried over. Although Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui were his guards, they had only just reached the 2nd level and there was no point in keeping them around. Therefore, Chen Ronghuo had been giving them a break during this period to speed up their cultivation. Although their qualifications had already reached 3 points and they had all the resources, if Chen Ronghuo did not give them the power of faith, it would be almost impossible for them to cultivate from the early 2nd level to the middle level without a year. As for cultivating from the 2nd level to the 3rd level, it would probably take more than 10 years, or even 20 years. After looking at the two, Chen Ronghuo first set his sights on Gao Yan and said with a smile, "Mr. Gao, congratulations on your breakthrough to the 2nd level. It's all thanks to the Lord's support." Gao Yan bowed respectfully. Chen Ronghuo was a little surprised. I didn't expect that Gao Yan, who was straightforward last time, had improved a lot in this month. But at this moment, Gao Yan, after a salute, continued, "Also, I don't know what the Lord wants to talk to me about. I was just preparing to refine a secret treasure." Well, the weapon geek is still the weapon geek. Chen Ronghuo shook his head secretly and said, "I called you here this time to ask you to help refine a batch of battle array weapons." Since he knew Gao Yan's character, Chen Ronghuo didn't bother to be polite with him. After he finished speaking, he handed over a few pieces of paper that he had prepared in advance. Demon Ape Battle Array Weapons. Gao Yan took the drawings of the battle array weapons and saw that it was something he had never seen before. He immediately showed a hint of interest and read it carefully. When Gao Yan was looking at the weapon refining method on the paper, Chen Ronghuo introduced, "The Demon Ape Battle Array Weapons I gave you are temporarily 2 kinds. One is the 1st level top grade battle array weapon, and the other is the 2nd level low grade battle array weapon. A set of equipment consisting of 5 breastplates. I hope that Mr. Gao can refine 3 sets of 2nd level low grade battle array equipment and 40 sets of 1st level top grade battle array equipment as soon as possible." The Demon Ape battle formation equipment was specially selected by Chen Ronghuo through ancient books, and was the most suitable battle formation equipment for Hosan's subordinates. Each person only needs to wear a breastplate for this kind of battle array equipment, unlike the original Lushui battle array equipment in Lushwiven town, which in addition to the breastplate, also has a pair of shoes and a wrist guard. So much. Gao Yan's body trembled. For more than a month, he has been practicing in seclusion and has no idea about his family background in Greenwater Baytown. But Chen Ronghui himself knew everything about his family background. In the previous year, 5 of the 200 people he selected had broken through to become Earth Warriors. At the end of the year, he had 2 retreats. Including the time in between, almost 3 months had passed. Over such a long period of time, the strength of those 200 people, after a long period of accumulation, almost exploded. Now among the 200 people, a full 12 have broken through and become Earth Warriors. I guess even if you want to gather 15 people, it won't take long. In addition, among the remaining people, there are only a few dozen who are still in the late first order. Most of the other warriors have already reached the peak of the first level. Chen Ronghuo believes that once he equips such a group of people with battle array weapons and drags them out to fight, the entire Beiwu Island will definitely be shaken. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 196. I know that Gao Lao wants to refine so many battle array weapons by himself, and it is somewhat beyond his capabilities. But now there is a shortage of people in the town, so Gao Lao can only do more work. Chen Ronghuo shook his head. Gao Yan said, Lord, don't worry, I will definitely do my best. It's just that with so many battle formations and equipment, it's really difficult for me to complete them in a short time alone. I know. Chen Ronghuo nodded, Mr. Gao just needs to do his best. Then he explained to Gao Yan and assured him that he would get more pyromancers as soon as possible, and then sent him away. However, as soon as Gao Yan left, Chen Ronghuo turned his attention to Zhu Deipen and Li Haishui, and when he wanted to integrate the remaining 2 drops of immortal demon blood into their bodies, the guards outside suddenly came in and reported, Lord, Master Huanglin asks for an audience. Let him in. Chen Ronghuo nodded, knowing that Huanglin's visit at this time probably had something important to do. Lord. After a moment, Huanglin, dressed in black, walked in, saluted Chen Ronghuo, and immediately said without any nonsense, in the past few days, the conflict between the important town of Xinwu and the important town of Yuanhe has become more and more serious. People from Xinwu town have even occupied a large area of land in Yuanhe town. I think they are very likely to take action against Wen Meridian in the near future. The important town of Xinwu, Tanxiang. Hearing Huanglin's words, Chen Ronghuo suddenly narrowed his eyes. Then he turned his consciousness to the ancient book and outlined the map of Beiwu Island in text. This is a small magical effect of the ancient book he discovered. It only needs to be activated by the power of the soul, and it does not consume much. Original Sword Town. The important town of Iron Blood, the important town of Mentang, the important town of Taman, and the important town of Zhui. The important town of Longtan, the important town of King Mua, and the important town of Dark Horse. Tongluo important town, Yuanhe important town, Xinwu important town, Zhejiang important town. Crazy Sword Stronghold. Up north, down south, left, west, right and east, excluding the influence of Changsun Zhengzin's 3 sons, this is the previous distribution map of the 13 important towns on Beiwu Island. The northernmost one is the original Sword Town, and the southernmost one is the Mad Sword Town. Not to mention the north, the 5 major towns in the south, Tongluo, Zhejiang, and Guangdao, have been destroyed. Only 2 important towns, Xinwu and Yuanhe, were left. After looking at the map for a few times, Chen Ronghuo's heart moved slightly and he said, I know about this. You go down and prepare first, and then come with me to the important town in the distant river. Yes. Huanglin bowed and retreated. Lord, are you going to destroy the important town of Yuanhe? After Huang Lin retreated, Zhu Deipen couldn't help but said, Wen Jingluo can mobilize the power of faith in the important town of Yuanhe, so I'm afraid it's not that easy to destroy. Destroyed the important town in Yuanhe? When Chen Ronghuo heard this, he suddenly showed a strange look and said, I have subdued Wen Jingluo. He is one of my own now. Why should I kill him? Already conquered Wen Jingluo? When Zhu Deipen and Li Haishui heard this, their mouths opened wide. Then they thought about what had been reported before, that Wen Jingluo was injured by the bereaved family of Mo Li, and that Nai Kuangdao in the Crazy Blade Town was killed. Their hearts jumped quickly and they said, Lord, what happened in the Crazy Blade Town some time ago, is it really you who did it? Yes. Chen Ronghuo nodded. Call. Zhu Deipen and Li Haishui both took a breath. Then Zhu Deipen seemed to have thought of something, and suddenly said, Then Lord, you have been in seclusion for more than a month, have you already broken through to the 3rd level? Chen Ronghuo nodded again. As Chen Ronghuo gave his answer, the two of them felt confused. The two are Chen Ronghuo's guards. But now that Chen Ronghuo has broken through to the 3rd level, they are still wandering around in the early stage of the 2nd level. In this case, how can they still be Chen Ronghuo's guards? If they really encounter danger, it would be better not to ask Chen Ronghuo to protect them. Seeing the expressions of the two of them, Chen Ronghuo smiled and said, I have something in my hand that can accelerate your strength. It is even possible to directly upgrade your cultivation level to the 3rd level. At the same time, this object can also greatly improve your martial arts qualifications, but this object has a flaw, that is, once used, if I am injured in the future, part of it will be transferred to you. I don't know if you, Lord. Before Chen Ronghuo could finish his words, Zhu Deipen and Li Haishui's eyes lit up at the same time and said, Why didn't you tell me earlier about this treasure? Isn't it that part of your injury will be transferred to us? We will never be able to repay your great kindness to us in our lifetime. And we are your guards. After you are injured, it is natural for you to transfer the damage to us, so you should take out this treasure quickly. They were really excited. How many times have they watched Chen Ronghuo's strength increase rapidly? The two of them were chasing after him quickly, but they were getting further and further away from Chen Ronghuo. If they weren't all 2nd level cultivators, they would probably have bubbles coming out of their mouths. Now that Chen Ronghuo has raised such a matter, there is no reason for them not to grasp it tightly. In the eyes of the two of them, the treasure Chen Ronghuo mentioned was simply tailor-made for them. Okay, since you want it, I'll give it to you. Chen Ronghuo nodded, and then mentioned to the two of them that using this treasure might be a bit painful, so they should be prepared. However, the two of them were now immersed in beautiful fantasies. They automatically ignored all the negative effects of the immortal demon blood, and just kept urging Chen Ronghuo to take out the treasure quickly. In desperation, Chen Ronghuo could only shake his head and took the two of them to his secret room. Have you really decided? In the secret room, Chen Ronghuo asked again, the treasure I'm talking about is a kind of blood. Once you are in this blood, you will be completely connected to me. You may never be able to break away from me. After hearing this, the two nodded resolutely again. They have been following Chen Ronghuo wholeheartedly for a long time. For them, the most painful thing is that they cannot keep up with Chen Ronghuo in terms of strength. Seeing the appearance of the two of them, Chen Ronghuo nodded slightly. Then he took a step forward, stretched out his hand, patted the shoulders of the two of them, and integrated the 2 drops of defective immortal demon blood in the seal page into their bodies. Okay. Immediately he clapped his hands and a smile appeared on his face. Lord, is this all over? Zhu Deipen felt a little cool in his body and said in surprise, this is nothing, what? Halfway through his words, the expression on his face suddenly became extremely distorted. Chen Ronghuo shook his head, okay, then you can refine that drop of blood here. I'll go out first. As he spoke, he turned around, left the secret room, and closed the door to the secret room. Ho ho ho. After Chen Ronghuo left, the roaring sounds of Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui suddenly sounded in the secret room. The sounds were louder and louder, and no one knew what was going on. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 197. After Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui were settled, Chen Ronghuo walked out of the Lord's mansion. The Immortal Demon Lord sounds like a noble name. After integrating into the immortal demon blood, Chen Ronghuo could sense that he had only digested a small part of the energy of the immortal demon blood. There is also most of the immortal demon blood hidden deep in his body, which has not been refined by him. In the future, as he practices, and as more and more of the immortal demonic blood hidden in his body is refined by him, his martial arts cultivation will also rapidly improve. As for Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui, who specialize in martial arts, their future achievements after being fused with the blood of the undead devil are likely to be equally limitless. Moreover, they were originally second-level cultivators. This time they merged with the immortal demon blood, and they might be able to directly reach the third level like him. If the two of them also reach the third level, then he will have 7 third-level combatants in his hands. Chen Ronghuo can be said to be looking forward to this. Meow. As soon as Chen Ronghuo walked outside from the Lord's mansion, the fat cat lying under the colorful spirit tree discovered him. But this time, Fat Cat just barked and ignored him. Chen Ronghuo looked a little strange. He didn't expect that after scaring this guy last time, he actually dared to lose his temper with him. Isn't it afraid that there will be no delicious food in the future? But just when Chen Ronghuo was thinking this, he moved his nose and suddenly smelled an extremely alluring fragrance, coming from Fat Mao. He showed a hint of surprise. Turning around, he saw that after seeing him come out, the fat cat actually took out a large plate of fish with all kinds of colors and flavors from its exclusive storage ring. Shamao's storage ring originally belonged to Nai Kuangdao. After killing Nai Kuangdao that day, after the contents of the ring were taken away by Chen Ronghuo, the ring was taken away by Shamao. When Chen Ronghuo saw the plate of fish that Shamao took out, he immediately identified it with a look. Big carp with soy sauce, the food cooked by the magic chef Yu Dupang in the Gluttony 9 pots is infinitely delicious and can replenish the warrior's energy and blood and speed up his martial arts practice. What's the meaning? Now that you have found your next home, you feel confident, right? Chen Ronghuo moved his eyes away from the plate of fish and looked at Shamao, and then saw Shamao looking at him with a satisfied look. It's like saying, don't think that you are the only one who can make delicious food for me. Don't you think that I, the cat, will hang myself from a tree like yours? Chen Ronghuo's eyebrows beat. Some dumbfounded. At this time, when Shamao saw Chen Ronghuo stunned in place, he suddenly glanced over his head arrogantly, stuck out his tongue, and took a delicious lick on the large carp with soy sauce on the plate. Immediately, it turned its head again and faced Chen Ronghuo, showing an expression of endless aftertaste. See what you can do. A strange smile appeared on Chen Ronghuo's face. He took a step forward and was in front of Fat Mao in an instant. Then he squatted down and snatched the plate of fish away from Fat Mao off guard. Meow meow meow. The fat cat suddenly became anxious. It had an angry look on its face. It's okay if you don't make me delicious food. I've found my next home now. I brought something delicious for myself, but you took it away from me. Are you the kind of master you are? It circled Chen Ronghuo, its body flickering like the wind, trying to take back the fish. But after Chen Ronghuo's cultivation reached the third level, his reaction speed was extremely fast. He switched his hands back and forth, making the fat cat's movements useless. And in the process, his left hand touched the fish on the plate, but after a while, he touched the whole fish empty. Give. When the fish was empty, he threw the plate far away. The fat cat subconsciously flew forward and took the plate in his mouth. But when it saw that he just held the empty plate in his mouth, he immediately opened his eyes wide, turned his head, and looked at Chen Ronghuo with an indescribable expression. Seeing that Chen Ronghuo was indifferent, it felt as if it could not help Chen Ronghuo, so it took a few deep breaths in frustration and returned to the colorful tree. But after returning to the colorful tree, it actually took out a large plate of fish. Then, while guarding against Chen Ronghuo coming over again and snatching the fish away, it opened its mouth and bit down hard on the big fish on the plate. It seemed that the big fish was Chen Ronghuo. But before its mouth touched the fish, it looked at the fish, together with the plate below, and flashed into Chen Ronghuo's hands again. This time, Chen Ronghuo obviously used his third-level soul power. Xiamao was immediately stunned when he saw that the last plate of fish he had left was snatched away by Chen Ronghuo. This is already its last plate of fish. It looked at Chen Ronghuo, with tears flashing from its eyes. On the colorful spirit tree, the colorful spirit butterfly watched the scene carefully through the gaps between the branches and leaves. It did not dare to participate in the battle between its master and the fat cat. While carefully checking the situation, it sneaked around, controlled the colorful spiritual tree, and fled back more than 10 meters away. The last time Chen Ronghuo was in Black Tiger Town, he got a zombie corpse that could escape from the earth. He took out 3 points of escape attributes from the corpse. Of these 3 points of escape attributes, 2 of them were given to Huang. The hill was given a colorful spiritual tree by him. So now, if the colorful spiritual tree wants to move its position, it no longer needs to pull out its roots and run away. Chen Ronghuo naturally saw the colorful spirit butterfly's little movements. He really had no choice but to smile bitterly. This little guy is really too timid. Shaking his head, Chen Ronghuo ignored the colorful spirit butterflies. Instead, he glanced at Fat Cat, who was about to cry. He smiled slightly, touched the big fish on the plate with his left hand, and touched the other big fish just now. Attributes such as delicious taste are all added to this. After doing this, he put the plate on the ground and walked out. Behind him, Xiamao saw Chen Ronghuo's movements and seemed to have thought of something. His cat eyes suddenly brightened. It stared at the big fish, and after a moment, with a movement of its body, it ran to the big fish and took a bite. Meow. The next moment, Xiamao narrowed his eyes and showed an extremely intoxicated expression. It's so delicious. The delicacies prepared by the master are really delicious. How stupid I am. How could I forget? No matter what delicacy is, it can become more delicious in the hands of the owner, right? Meow. After a fish quickly entered his belly, Fat Cat raised his head. When he saw that Chen Ronghuo was about to walk out of the Lord's mansion, he immediately flashed his figure, turned into a breeze, and caught up with him. Meow meow meow. After catching up with Chen Ronghuo, it jumped into Chen Ronghuo's arms, showing an extremely well-behaved and sensible expression. Chen Ronghuo touched the fat cat's smooth fur with a calm expression. Grab a cat's stomach and you'll get it to ride on you. There is an old saying in Earthstar that should be like this, right? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 198. When leaving the Lord's mansion, Chen Ronghuo looked at Chang Sun Zhengzhen, who was cleaning the yard rhythmically, and shook his head slightly. In the entire Beiwu Island, he was probably the only one who could get such a 4th-level cultivator to help clean the yard. That's right, in just over a month, Chang Sun Zhengzhen had broken through to the early 4th level after integrating into the Wuchen state of mind. Looking at Beiwu Island, he has once again become the strongest person on Beiwu Island. As for the soul shadow of Mo Licking, Chen Ronghuo did not see it. It was obviously resting in the love flower in Changsun Zhengzin Soul Sea. Yuan He Town. Wen Jingluo sat alone in his lord's hall. During this period of time, he had found a way to arrange for all his important family members to go out. At this time, only he and his men were left in Yuan He Town. Not long ago, his men reported that Xinwu Town had occupied another piece of their territory. But he had long since stopped caring about this matter. Suddenly, his body shook, as if he had received some information, and he stood up from his seat. Finally here. Muttering to himself, he walked out of his lord's mansion, soared into the air, and flew straight to the outside of Yuan He Town. Seeing Wen Jingluo's sudden departure, his subordinates and the townspeople in the town all looked extremely ugly. Now Xinwu Town is aggressive, and they all know that Wen Jingluo is injured, so many people know that this time their Yuan He Town is in trouble. Is it you? In a valley a few miles away from Yuan He Town, Wen Jingluo landed in a valley, and when he saw Chen Ronghuo without covering his face, his pupils shrank immediately. He had seen Chen Ronghuo's portrait, so he recognized Chen Ronghuo at a glance. Yes, it's me. Chen Ronghuo smiled. Wen Jingluo took a deep breath, and never thought that the so-called descendants of Moli were actually Chen Ronghuo. Thinking of the fact that he had thought about going to Greenwater Bay Town and taking it down with lightning speed, he smiled bitterly. He knew that he had guessed wrong, all wrong. At first, he thought that Chen Ronghuo dared to refuse the invitations of the three major towns, most likely because he secretly joined Longtan Town. Until now, he knew that Chen Ronghuo dared to refuse them because he had the strength to do so. Are you really the descendants of Moli? Thinking of this, Wen Jingluo couldn't help but ask curiously. Demon Li descendants, Chen Ronghuo smiled. Xuejun from the original Black Tiger Town is the last bloodline of the Demon Li descendants. But he has been killed by me. Wen Jingluo was startled, and then said, what about Zhou Yuanhua? Zhou Yuanhua, Chen Ronghuo shook his head and explained lightly, he just happened to take the blame. Hearing this, Wen Jingluo immediately smiled bitterly again. Only then did he know that all of them had been deceived by Chen Ronghuo. Shaking his head, he put away the complicated emotions in his heart. He then bowed to Chen Ronghuo and said, the Lord must have known about the matter of Xinwu Town. I wonder what the Lord is going to do next? Do you want me to cooperate and kill Tan Xiong? Hearing Wen Jingluo calling him the Lord, Chen Ronghuo smiled and said, since Tan Xiong wants your Yuan He Town, then you should give it to him. Give it to him. Wen Jingluo immediately showed an incredible look, not understanding why Chen Ronghuo did this. Of course, he was reluctant in his heart. Seeing Wen Jingluo's expression, Chen Ronghuo said, you may not know that Tan Xiong has broken through to the late third stage. It is not easy to kill him. But you occupied most of the territory of Tongluo Town before. This time, if you give Yuan He Town, together with the territory of Tongluo Town you occupied before, to Tan Xiong, it is equivalent to occupying 5 towns by yourself. Chen Ronghuo's eyes flashed with a strange look. When Wen Jingluo first heard Chen Ronghuo say that Tan Xiong had broken through to the third stage, his pupils shrank. But when he heard Chen Ronghuo's next words, his heart suddenly moved, as if a layer of fog had been lifted. It sounds very impressive to take charge of the 5 important towns in the south of Beiwu Island with one's own strength and become the master of the 5 towns. But if Tan Xiong really did this? Wen Jingluo's eyes flashed, and he already understood what Chen Ronghuo meant. The 5 southern towns together will form a semi-arc, surrounding the 3 important towns of Longtan, Qingmua, and Hema. And these 3 important towns are recognized as the 3 strongest important towns in the entire Beiwu Island. At that time, facing such a big piece of cake as the 5 southern towns, how can the 3 important towns sit still? Before, because of his emotions, he had been trapped in a maze and didn't think about it. At this time, when Chen Ronghuo said this, he thought of this. But after thinking about this, he frowned again and said, I know a little about Tan Xiong. Even if he has broken through to the late third stage, he shouldn't be so unwise. You don't know him. Chen Ronghuo shook his head. Through calculation, he knew that although Tan Xiong had just broken through to the late third stage, in terms of strength, he might not be worse than the 2 third-level peak practitioners on Beiwu Island. Of course, Chen Ronghuo did not make a specific calculation for this. The basis for his judgment was just to use the ancient books to calculate the information related to Tan Xiong and the amount of energy required to make a judgment. That is why he did not attack Tan Xiong directly. Instead, he planned to withdraw from this vortex temporarily and let Tan Xiong collide with the 3 major towns a few times. Lord, if I give the territory to Tan Xiong, I don't know what will happen to my men. Wen Jingluo suddenly asked again tentatively. Chen Ronghuo said, dismiss all your men, or let them go to Tan Xiong. You should do this now. After you are done, you will give up your noble status and go back to Lushwiven town with me, but your lord's statue will not be broken yet. Yes. Wen Jingluo agreed. His expression was complicated. Giving up his noble status and giving up his life's hard work can be said to have really cut a piece of meat in his heart. But he did not dare to refuse Chen Ronghuo's order. After Wen Jingluo agreed, Chen Ronghuo gave him a few more words and asked him to return to Yuanhe town. After Wen Jingluo left, Chen Ronghuo shook his head. He didn't let Wen Jingluo abandon Yuanhe town before, in order to let him help him delay time, but now, Yuanhe town has no need to exist. The Lord of the 5 towns. Then he thought of Wen Jingluo abandoning Yuanhe town, and wondered if Tan Xiong really had the courage to take over the entire Yuanhe town. Buzz. But just as Chen Ronghuo was thinking about these things, his consciousness moved, and suddenly he separated a thread and entered the inner space of the ancient book. A golden star fell quietly. Only the 4th update, MMP, a red envelope at 12 o'clock, and still, all the debts must be paid before the end of January, and the women's clothing cannot be paid back, and will continue to be paid later. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 199. A picture flashed in Chen Ronghuo's mind. The place presented in the picture made him inexplicably familiar. A closer look revealed that it was the Red Fish village he had been to before. The mist lingered above the surface of the Red Fish Lake, which was magnificent. However, in the center of the Red Fish Lake, a strange vortex slowly appeared. This vortex seemed to be connected to an unknown place. After the vortex appeared, the mist above the lake surface poured into it. At the same time, a huge red carp 3 or 4 meters long suddenly emerged from the lake. This huge red carp opened its big eyes and stared at the vortex in the center of the lake. Its eyes gradually became confused, and then it slowly swung its tail and swam towards the vortex. There was no obstacle in front of the vortex. The huge red carp just swung its tail and swam in. The picture changed. After passing through the vortex, the huge red carp suddenly appeared in a chaotic space of dozens of square meters. The walls of this space were hazy, and it seemed that there were many lives outside, attacking this chaotic space. Chen Ronghuo looked through the picture and could clearly see that this chaotic space was shaking slightly. He was awed in his heart, not knowing where the chaotic space connected to the vortex was, and where the chaotic space was outside. At this time, the picture turned along the red carp's line of sight and fell on a crystal clear white bead in the center of the chaotic space. Seeing this bead, the red carp's eyes were confused again, and then it slapped its tail in the chaotic space, and its body came to the white bead, opened its mouth, and swallowed it in one gulp. Click. As the white bead was swallowed by the red carp, the 4 walls of the chaotic space suddenly cracked. Through these gaps, it can be vaguely seen that outside this space, there are many figures swaying. In addition to these figures, There are also many other lives there. However, as the cracks on the four walls of the chaotic space became larger and larger, the confusion in the eyes of the red carp in the chaotic space suddenly disappeared after swallowing the white bead into its stomach. Then it seemed to sense the danger, and its tail slapped again, and its body rushed straight to the vortex that was shrinking rapidly above. Whoosh! As the red carp rushed out of the vortex and rushed to the sky, the vortex under it also shrank to the limit and disappeared quickly. Whoosh! At the same time, after the red carp jumped into the sky, it did not fall back into the water, but just floated in the air. The mist on the lake seemed to be attracted by it. In a short time, it gathered around it. In the countless mists, Chen Ronghuo's eyes suddenly shrank, and he found that two white bags slowly bulged on the head of the red carp. Is this guy going to transform into a dragon? Chen Ronghuo was surprised and guessed what the white bead was just now. Oceans, lakes, earth, and sky, I am the only one. But just after the red carp's forehead bulged two white bags, it suddenly spoke human words and said a domineering sentence. In the internal space of the ancient book, Chen Ronghuo opened his mouth slightly, wondering what happened to the red carp. At the same time, it was the first time he knew that the ancient book could actually transmit sound. Thinking of this, he saw that after the red carp said such a domineering sentence, it suddenly rolled up the surrounding mist, as if it was a wing, and flew around the red fish lake for several circles before falling into the water. As the big fish fell into the water, hundreds of red carps rushed out of the red fish lake. These hundreds of red carps all followed the big red carp before and swam happily in the lake. Under the sunlight, their scales shone, showing their agile posture. In a moment, the scene ended, and Chen Ronghuo's consciousness withdrew from the internal space of the ancient book. Has the red carp king in Red Fish Village broken through to the third level? There was an inexplicable look in his eyes. When he first came to this world, he heard Huang Xiaoshan say that there was a red carp king in Red Fish Village. If the people of Hongyu village wanted to fish in that big lake, they had to worship the red carp king every year and offer it. But he didn't expect that the red carp, which was originally only a second-level cultivation, actually got such a good fortune and broke through to the third level. However, what is that white bead? Where is the chaotic space where the white bead is located, and where is the outside of the chaotic space? Chen Ronghuo took a deep breath, his mind turned, and his consciousness fell on the ancient book. There was a line of introduction about the picture just now on the ancient book. The red carp king of Red Fish Village got a white dragon ball because he accidentally entered a strange place, and his cultivation broke through to the third level. Entered a strange place by mistake. Seeing this line of handwriting, Chen Ronghuo's heart suddenly moved. When he identified Fat Cat, the information he got was that Fat Cat got a Tiger Soul Dragon Ball because he accidentally entered a strange place, and then became a demon and achieved today's achievements. He also asked Fat Cat about that strange place. But Fat Cat couldn't explain it. He just told him that he suddenly went in, and then inexplicably came out of it. So, is there any connection between the strange place that Fat Cat entered and the chaotic space that the Red Carp King entered? In Yuanhe Town. From today on, Yuanhe Town will be disbanded. After Wen Jingluo returned to Yuanhe Town, he immediately used his soul power to vibrate the air and made a huge voice. Yuanhe Town will be disbanded. Everyone was shocked when they heard his words, showing incredible expressions. Yuanhe Town can be said to be the hard work of Wen Jingluo's life. Just disbanded like this? After Wen Jingluo said this, his heart was bleeding. He just sighed, but ignored his subordinates, and suddenly picked up the pen and wrote a huge word fog. After the word fog appeared, endless white fog immediately emerged with it as the center. The white fog was diffused, and soon, it enveloped the Lord's mansion. Then he wrote the word fog one by one. As more and more fog words appeared, the whole Yuanhe town was gradually shrouded in white fog. The people in Yuanhe town were puzzled and didn't know what Wen Jingluo was doing. But they didn't know that when the white fog covered most of Beiwu City, Chen Ronghuo and Huang Lin had quietly arrived in front of the Lord's mansion in Yuanhe town. After Chen Ronghuo placed his left hand on Wen Jingluo's Lord's statue, Wen Jingluo immediately followed his instructions and bombarded his Lord's statue again and again. A few dozen seconds later, with a loud bang, the Lord's statue that had existed for more than 100 years collapsed to the ground with a bang. Come on, follow me to Hongyu village. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 200. What is the White Dragon Ball? Chen Ronghuo tried to deduce it using an ancient book. But when he saw the energy required to deduce this thing, his scalp immediately went numb and he stopped thinking about it. But then, his mind moved again. That red carp king swallowed the white dragon ball and advanced to the 3rd level. Now it should be a dragon demon. A dragon demon, should it be swallowed by Fat Cat or subdued? Fat Cat can swallow dragon and tiger demons, gain their power, and have a certain chance of gaining their talents. If Fat Cat swallows the red carp king, it may soon be able to break through to the 3rd level. But after Chen Ronghuo's soul power reached the 3rd level, another demon contract had already been born in his soul sea. If he can use this demon contract to contract the red carp king that has obtained great fortune, it is obviously a good choice. As Chen Ronghuo's thoughts were rolling in his mind, he quickly came to Hongyu village with Huang Lin and Wen Jingluo. Arrived in front of the Red Fish Lake near the Red Fish Village. Chen Ronghuo had passed by the Red Fish Village several times, but this was his first time to get close to the Red Fish Lake. The vast water surface, under the breeze, was rippling with fine ripples. A red carp emerged from the water, and looked at Chen Ronghuo and the other two curiously without fear, then swung its tail and left. Red Fish Lake is their territory. No one dares to bully them here. Not to mention that their king had just broken through not long ago and became even more powerful. Chen Ronghuo naturally didn't know what a carp was thinking, but when he saw that the carp was not small, more than 1 meter long, he immediately identified its attributes with a glance. Red carp, some intelligence, not in the grade, delicious. Not in the grade yet. Chen Ronghuo was a little disappointed. Not in the grade means not yet at the 1st level, not a demon. However, after taking a look at the carp that was about to disappear, Chen Ronghuo still had an idea in his heart, and released his soul power that had just reached the 3rd level, turning it into a big hand and grabbing it underwater. The powerful soul power turned into a big hand and went deep into the water. With just one grab, the carp was pulled out of the water without any resistance. All living things have a circle of life field outside their bodies. Using soul power to capture life will be disturbed. But Chen Ronghuo, with the strength of the 3rd level, can easily catch a red carp that is not of good quality. Whoosh! The red carp was caught from underwater, with a puzzled look on its face, not knowing what happened. As a freshwater fish, it does not need to drink water for its entire life. But it has to absorb oxygen from the water. It was not until it flapped its gills again and sensed that there was no oxygen entering that it slowly panicked. Plop! Just when it wanted to struggle, Chen Ronghuo's soul hand loosened, and the 1 meter long fish fell into the water with a splash. Catch. Throw. Catch again. Throw again. The calm lake surface was broken by Chen Ronghuo's fiddling. Circles of ripples spread out, and in the golden sunlight, they flashed the fine gold-like fish scales. Huang Lin and Wen Jingluo on the side looked at each other in surprise. I don't know what Chen Ronghuo is playing with an ordinary little red carp. Hua. But suddenly, just when Chen Ronghuo was playing with the inferior red carp, dozens of water columns suddenly spurted out from the lake. As the water column climbed, nearly 2-meter-long red carps jumped up with the water column, formed a formation, and looked at Chen Ronghuo together. Boom! Then, behind these red carps, the lake surface suddenly broke open, and a 4 or 5 meter long red carp jumped out of the water. After this big red carp came out, the lake water below it immediately rose upwards, forming a huge throne that lifted it up. Red Carp King. Xuanhuan was a little surprised. He had known the name of the Red Carp King for a long time. But he didn't expect that this Red Carp King had actually broken through to the 3rd level. Then he looked at Chen Ronghuo in surprise. He knew in his heart that the purpose of Chen Ronghuo's coming this time was probably this Red Carp King. But he didn't know how Chen Ronghuo knew that it had broken through to the 3rd level. As for Wen Jingluo, it was also the first time he saw this Red Carp King. He also didn't expect that in such a small lake, there would be a red carp with the strength of the 3rd level. Red Carp King, Early Stage 3. Qualification, 4. Special Ability 1, Flying in the Clouds. Special Ability 2, Gathering Luck. The place where the Red Carp King is located is blessed by luck. If you subdue it, the territory will be blessed with good weather and rain, and it will be easier to give birth to babies with good qualifications. It also attracts outsiders to enter the territory and stay here. At the same time, the luck gathered by the Red Carp King can also, to a certain extent, prevent the people in the territory from being invaded by external evil. Ability 1, Dragon Power. Ability 2, Water Control LV3, Medium. Originally an ordinary 2nd stage Red Carp King, because of luck, he entered a strange place and obtained the White Dragon Ball, which enabled him to transform and break through to the 3rd stage. However, the Red Carp King only initially refined the White Dragon Ball. As more and more White Dragon Balls are refined, its strength and qualifications will become stronger and stronger, and it can obtain new talents. At this time, when Chen Ronghuo identified the attributes of the Red Carp King, the Red Carp King was lying on the throne of water, looking at Chen Ronghuo and the others from a distance, and said in a cold voice, "Humans, you are so brave. How dare you come to my territory and tease my children?" When it spoke, there was immediately a heavy pressure on the hearts of Chen Ronghuo and the others. All 3 of them felt as if they were being watched by a dragon. This feeling was obviously because the Red Carp King unleashed his dragon power on them. Meow. Suddenly, Fat Mao, who was lying in Chen Ronghuo's arms as if nothing had happened, suddenly lit up after feeling the power of the dragon released by the Red Carp King. When looking at the Red Carp King, there was a hint of covetousness. The Red Carp King didn't notice the fat cat's gaze. After it finished speaking, with a thought, it controlled the water in the lake to form a big wave, and rolled up the 1 meter long red carp that was teased by Chen Ronghuo and was almost dying, back to itself. It seems to be related to the inheritance of the White Dragon Ball. Its water control ability exceeds its own level and reaches level 3, mid-term. Such water control ability allows it to be as comfortable in the water as a fish in water. After rescuing the red carp, it looked left and right and said, "Children, please wait here. Today I will let you experience the domineering power of this great king." Hearing the domineering declaration of this red carp king, Chen Ronghuo looked strange for a while. "Are you sure this guy didn't come from Journey to the West?" Boom boom boom. The other red carp cannot speak and can only express their support for the red carp king through actions. So after the red carp king finished speaking, they immediately jumped more cheerfully. Water pillars rose up from the water, and then fell down again, one after another, as if they were big rocks smashing into the water one after another, causing countless splashes. In such a scene, the red carp king jumped, turning the water throne beneath him into a huge water dragon. It controlled a huge water dragon and rushed straight towards Chen Ronghuo and the others. Thanks to stranger Zhang Chuan for the 500 coin reward, Yangtze River Fatty for the 500 coin reward, the Burning of the Sense of the Times for the 200 coin reward, and Xian Yuming for the 100 coin reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Do Pang. Chapter 201. The lake water rolled, as if the Dragon King was angry. The huge water dragon, under the control of the Red Carp King, raised its head from the lake, emitting a powerful dragon power. This dragon power acted on Chen Ronghuo and the other two, making them feel sluggish. It seemed difficult to move in it. However, such pressure was useless to Chen Ronghuo and the other two. Seeing the Red Carp King attacking, Wen Jingluo's mind moved. He was eager to make a contribution when he first attacked Chen Ronghuo. Avoid water. He summoned a big brush and wrote two big words "avoid water" in the void in an instant, and printed it on the huge water dragon created by the Red Carp King. In terms of level, the Red Carp King and Wen Jingluo are the same, both are in the early stage of the third level. In terms of ability, the Red Carp King's water control ability exceeds its own level and reaches LV3, intermediate level. Compared with it, Wen Jingluo is a little worse. But everything is mutually reinforcing and mutually restraining. The two words "avoid water" created by Wen Jingluo are the secret art of water. Boom! With a loud noise, the huge water dragon hit the two words "avoid water" created by Wen Jingluo, just like a water bullet shot from a water gun, hitting the wall, splashing water everywhere, unable to break through. No wonder you came to trouble me, it turns out you are also a third level. Seeing that his determined attack failed, the Red Carp King stared with his big eyes and looked at Wen Jingluo solemnly. Swish! Just as its voice fell, a figure suddenly flashed out from the nothingness beside it, clenched his fist, gathered all his strength, and hit it quickly. This punch, like a long snake spear, broke through the air, and when the Red Carp King just noticed it and was frightened, it hit its abdomen with a bang. It was Xuanhuan who took advantage of the huge water dragon being broken. He is the descendant of the Mongadu Black Emperor Snake. In terms of stealth, no one in the same level can match him. At the same time, his physical strength and speed are also outstanding, and he can be regarded as the top of the same level. The Red Carp King was hit by Xuanhuan's punch, and the red scales on his body made a rustling sound. In the rapid vibration, the fish meat under the scales shook rapidly, removing most of the power of Xuanhuan's punch. However, even so, the remaining half of the power in Xuanhuan's punch still caused its internal organs to shift, and its body flew out of the sky above the Red Fish Lake involuntarily and fell far to the shore of the Red Fish Lake. You are also a third level. As soon as the Red Carp King landed, its tail slapped the ground like a palm leaf fan, bounced up, flew to a height of more than 10 meters, and looked solemnly at Xuanhuan, whose figure was gradually disappearing. It had just received good fortune and had not yet completely adapted to its own power. At this time, it encountered two third-level human practitioners. The Red Carp King showed fear in his eyes. Huh! At this moment, he glimpsed from the corner of his eyes, and saw the last of the three people kicking his big feet on the ground, and actually rushed towards him, like thunder. This person was wearing a black and red robe. He originally thought he was a sorcerer, but he didn't expect that he was actually a warrior. And judging from his speed, this person was actually a third-level cultivator. When did third-level cultivators become cabbage? It was the king of a lake. Looking back, it had never seen a third-level cultivator for decades or even hundreds of years. How come he just got the fortune this time and met three third-level cultivators at once? The Red Carp King had a lot of thoughts in his mind, and felt that he was really unlucky. But because Chen Ronghuo was originally close to it, and it was attacking it like thunder at this time, and it had just been severely injured, it could only flick its tail in a hurry, and use its own magic power to transform a piece of water light to block Chen Ronghuo. The so-called magic power is like the natural disaster magic flame refined into the soul sea by Chen Ronghuo. The magic power of the Red Carp King is the essence of water that it has refined into its soul sea. While running, Chen Ronghuo threw the fat cat to the ground and arrived in front of the Red Carp King in an instant. Then he jumped up, looked down at the water light that the red carp king splashed on him, sneered, and stepped on the water light with his big feet without hesitation. Whoosh! With this step, a move he often used, the flame sweep, came out from under his feet, like a tongue of flame, licking forward. After this lick, the large area of water light blocking the red carp king was completely consumed by his natural disaster magic flame. Bang! Following Chen Ronghuo's big foot, just as the red carp king opened its eyes wide, he kicked it on its head. Boom! The next moment, Chen Ronghuo stepped on the huge head of the red carp king and landed on the shore, splashing layers of dust. However, when the dust approached, Chen Ronghuo waved his hand gently and fell down again. Below, the red carp king was stepped on the head by Chen Ronghuo, and was immediately furious. It shook its head and struggled hard to escape. During the struggle, the two white bags on its forehead swelled slightly, as if they were about to pop out, and the two whiskers more than 1 foot long also trembled with the shaking of its head. Human, you are so brave. I am the master of the lake, I am the king of the ocean, I am the master of the sky, I am the master of the earth. Swish! A long black and red flame, like a snake, came out from Chen Ronghuo's hand and fell in front of the red carp king. This flame, between swallowing and spitting, surged with scorching temperature, roasted one of the red carp king's whiskers, curled up into a circle, and exuded the smell of meat. What are you? Carp, red carp, the red carp king spoke hurriedly. It looked at the flame emitted by Chen Ronghuo with fear and trepidation in its eyes. After receiving the inheritance of the white dragon pearl, it not only broke through to the 3rd level, awakened new talents, but also gained many memories. How could it be the natural disaster devil flame? Through those memories, it felt the disaster power that seemed to penetrate its beard and penetrate deep into its body, even its soul, and finally recognized this terrifying flame. Submit, or die, Chen Ronghuo said again. Then he waved his hand again, and the demon contract he formed after practicing to the 3rd level turned into a red light and fell on the forehead of the red carp king. Seeing this red light, the red carp king's expression suddenly became extremely stiff. It could recognize the natural disaster devil flame, and it was naturally familiar with the demon contract. Its big eyes rolled around. Great human, I am just a red carp, it is really not worth it for you to waste a demon contract. Let's discuss it again. Do you think there is a third option? Meow. Suddenly, the fat cat that was just thrown to the ground by Chen Ronghuo suddenly grew larger and became 4 or 5 meters in size. Then the fat cat moved like the wind and came to the front of the red carp king. It stared at the two white bags on the forehead of the red carp king, saliva dripping from its fangs, revealing a greedy look. This is the third choice, and the last choice. Chen Ronghuo smiled and spoke lightly. The red carp king's eyes met with the fat cat's eyes, and he felt the terrifying murderous intent revealed in them, and his heart trembled. I am the master of the lake, I am the king of the ocean, I am the master of the sky, I am the master of the earth. Speak human language. Chen Ronghuo frowned. I am not afraid of death, but I am afraid that after I die, no one will take care of my children. Compared with death, I would rather die than become someone else's food, so I choose to surrender. I wish all book friends a happy new year. Thanks to Moushi for the 1100 coin reward, the burning of the times for the 100 coin reward, and going against the current for the 100 coin reward. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 202. At this time, Huang Lin and Wenjing Gluo both came to Chen Ronghuo. He and Chen Rong formed horns of fire and surrounded the red carp king. Surrounded by 3 third-level cultivators and a cat who likes to eat fish, the red carp king showed a look of dejection in his eyes. I knew I was really in trouble this time. Call out. The red light transformed from the demon contract flashed, penetrated from the forehead of the red carp king, and marked its soul. The Red Carp King's body and soul trembled, but he did not dare to resist. With the cooperation of the Red Carp King, the contract was established in a moment. It was even faster than when Chen Ronghuo contracted the colorful spirit butterfly. Just after the contract was established, Chen Ronghuo suddenly felt his soul sea tremble, and then a touch of aqua blue sprouted from a corner of his soul sea, faintly turning into a clear spring. This is... Chen Ronghuo was slightly startled. After carefully sensing the clear spring, he finally realized what was going on. He signs a demon contract with a demon and has a certain chance of gaining the demon's abilities. When he signed the contract with Shamao, he obtained Shamao's special ability normal. This time he signed a contract with the Red Carp King, and gained the Red Carp King's ability water power. In a way, he became the water warlock. It's just that his water warlock level is pitifully weak. With his mind moving slightly, he turned his consciousness to the ancient book and appraised his newly acquired ability. Water power, LV1, low level, an ability inherited from the Red Carp King through a demon contract. Because the power of the host soul far exceeds the level of water power, this ability can be quickly improved by refining water-attributed spiritual objects. Sure enough. After receiving the identification results, Chen Ronghuo shook his head slightly. His abilities are somewhat mixed to begin with. Now that I have gained such an ability, it becomes even more complicated. But no matter what, gaining a new ability is a good thing. Maybe you will be able to use this ability at some point. Rumble. Suddenly, just as Chen Ronghuo was thinking this, huge battle sounds suddenly came from two directions in the northeast. Hearing the huge sound of fighting, several people raised their heads at the same time and looked into the distance. The loud noise became more and more intense, reaching its peak after more than 10 seconds. Then, without warning, the sounds of fighting in the two locations disappeared almost simultaneously. It's a battle between level 3 cultivators. Listening to the noise, it should be in the two major towns of Taman and Shui. Wen Jingluo said next to Chen Ronghuo. Chen Ronghuo nodded lightly. He separated a trace of consciousness and fell on the ancient book. After a brief deduction, his eyes suddenly showed some solemnity. The lord of the important town of Taman was named Sikangshi, and the lord of the important town of Shui was named Jiaoning. However, through Chen Ronghuo's calculations, he discovered that both of them had died in the previous battle. Among them, Sikangshi is a mid-level third-level cultivator, which is nothing. But Jiaoning is one of the 6 late third-level cultivators on the island. His physical death has a completely different meaning. At the same time, Jiaoning and Sikangshi died this time, and no one knows what drastic changes will happen to Beiwu Island. Huanglin, go to Taman Town and Shui Town and see what's going on there. Taking a deep breath, Chen Ronghuo immediately ordered Huanglin Dao beside him. Yes. Huanglin responded, and immediately disappeared. When Jingluo on the side saw Huanglin disappearing again, with a slight look of solemnity on his face. This time, he had deliberately stared at Huanglin. But he didn't expect that Huanglin could still disappear without warning, making it impossible for him to notice. After Huanglin left, Chen Ronghuo cast his gaze on the Red Fish King and said, "Let's go, take your children and follow me up the river along the west side of the Red Fish Lake." Red Fish Lake is connected to the green water of Lushwiven Town and can be directly reached Lushwiven Town. Bang! When the Red Carp King heard this, he slapped his tail on the ground, and with the force of the shock, he jumped back into the water with a whoosh. It circled around in the water a few times, and without knowing what it said in fish language, it rolled up a huge wave, carrying hundreds of red carps in the waves, and returned to Chen Ronghuo. Chen Ronghuo picked up the shrunken fat cat, jumped up to the top of the big wave, stepped on the waves with his feet, and rushed straight to Lushwiven Town. This time, with the deaths of Jiaoning and Sikangshi, not counting Changsun Zhengzin's 3 sons, there were only 6 heads of important towns left on the island. Longtan important town, Kingmu important town, Dark Horse important town, Xinwu important town, Mentang important town, Yuanji unimportant town. Chen Ronghuo murmured to himself in his heart. In this way, the situation will become clearer. Greenwater Bay Town. During this period, Beiwu Island experienced many changes. Not to mention anything else, just the huge battles that occurred from time to time and the huge noises made people feel frightened. Even though Lushwiven Town is located on the edge of Beiwu Island, the residents of the town are still worried about it. Since Chen Ronghuo became the lord of Lushwiven Town, the development of Lushwiven Town has been obvious to all. As the days get better and better, everyone has a strong sense of belonging to Greenwater Bay Town. But it is precisely because of this that the people of Lushwiven Town are even more panicked about the drastic changes in Beiwu Island. I am worried that such drastic changes will affect Lushwiven Town. In the eyes of most people, Chen Ronghuo is just a second-level cultivator. A second-level cultivator, no matter how many means he has, how can he deal with those lords of important towns who are in charge of important towns? You have to know that none of the lords of important towns have a cultivation level lower than the third level. Chen Ronghuo can detect the changes in the mentality of the people through the changes in the power of faith. But he has no good way to deal with this for the time being. At this time, unless he shows the strength of the third level, the townspeople can be reassured. But in this way, he is afraid that he will be exposed. Although he also knows that the time he can hide is getting shorter and shorter. After returning to the town quietly, Chen Ronghuo arranged the Red Carp King and Wenjing Gluo, and then waited quietly. He must know what happened in Taman Town and Zhui Town, and what choice Tan Xiong of Xinwu Town will make after he asked Wenjing Gluo to give up Yuanhe Town, so that he can make the next plan. Rumble. Just after Chen Ronghuo waited for more than an hour, a strong battle wave was heard again from the direction of Yuanhe Town. What happened again? Chen Ronghuo frowned. Could it be that Tan Xiong had a conflict with the three major towns? He focused his consciousness on the ancient book and began to calculate again. After his cultivation reached the third level, his soul power increased greatly. Without using the energy accumulated in the ancient book, he could already calculate many things through the ancient book. Thanks to MOXI and BATN for the 100 coin reward at